Good evening and welcome to Uncivil Disobedience. This is Chris Richards, the Eclectic Radical, and my co-host, Kennedy Cooper. We're sorry we're running late today. We had some technical difficulties with our guest. We hope that he will come back, but we will do our best for you if he doesn't.
Very unusual circumstances that, sometimes life throws a lot at you. We hope, honestly.
Yeah, he's having one of those days. True.
Hopefully he'll maybe be able to join us in a little while. Either way, we're going to talk about politics and things that are going on because we already missed Monday. We're not going to miss again. We're doing
true. No, first, let's start with what way too many people in the mainstream media are going to try to spin as bad news.
Sure.
Donald Rumsfeld died.
Oh, this is where we're this. Yes. Yeah.
So Donald Rumsfeld died. Now I'm going to bring Justin back. It seems like our technical difficulties have been resolved.
Ooh.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Do you hear us?
Loud and clear. I think we just had to do a refresh, Reno. Sorry about the whole pit bull biting me thing.
No, good.
I love Shorty Puppy, but sometimes he's too big for his own good. He's getting to be an old puppy too. He's about almost 10 years old too, so he's starting to get a little set in his ways. And sometimes I have to, hey, you come on, let's be reasonable here. So yeah. Sometimes he wants to help a little too much, if you say. So I'm so glad. I know it's been absolutely bonkers to try to actually get everything working here, and I know I've had a absolutely jam-packed day.
Well, so and if it wasn't a personal crisis, it's a national crisis. I mean, we've been in a unprecedented heat wave nationwide. That's why we didn't have the show Monday.
Yeah, we're getting it now. East Coast is only a couple days behind, and the problem here is too. I heard this from a couple people. It's a dry heat out there. It is not here. We call this swamp north for a reason. Baltimore is right on the Chesapeake. It's right above the swamp. So we're swamp north. It's it is what it is, but it's kind of.
But it is dangerous because when it's
we're right on the water everywhere you go.
Yeah, and if it's that humid, you can't sweat enough, and that's where you get into the danger zone, really, as much as anything. So it's
funny you mentioned that because today it was. I think I sent a picture out today where it was like 105, but it was like 20-some% humidity. It was 93 yesterday. And it was double that. It felt worse. It was hands down worse.
Mm-hmm. Double
the humidity, drop it 10 degrees. If it's that hot, it does not matter. It's just that bad. And that's the killer here. It's that we are, we're right on the water wherever you go. We've got no way around it. Like at least for some, because of the way the trade winds work and everything like that, we haven't ruined those yet. At least not entirely, not entirely yet. But when we do it, it's going to be terrible. Yeah. But right now, every northwest coast of every continent is significantly cooler. Every mid-Atlantic East Coast is horrible because of the trade winds. And you go to the middle of other continents, and they, especially if they're in the same region or a similar region, they'll have the similar issues, and it'll just go in reverse in the southern hemisphere. So it's terrible. It's crap all the way down, and it really bothers me personally because we're here in America where we're causing this, and this is not cool. This is exactly why I ended up going from Bernie to Our Revolution to Sunrise to now being, and I say this, and I'm probably speaking out of turn here, but I was the duly elected membership coordinator of Maryland Green Party. They are contesting this, and they are trying to Montreal screwjob me out of my positions right now. So congratulations, y'all got the scoop. y'all came to me, and they decided to do this. They announced this. They announced the positions that weren't being contested on Saturday when they were supposed to announce all positions.
Mm-hmm.
That was when my position was announced. I said, "Hey, cool. I'm the new membership coordinator. Let me go swagger. Let me go, do a couple Ric Flair, woo, and get that action going, and just kind of celebrate and kind of strategize. We got 2/3 of our slate through. We ran an actual campaign for this because we saw the opportunity to take over a political party.
Yeah,
and we did not take that lightly. And I said, look, I've been in the room with Maryland Democrats. I've been in Chris Matthews' house.
I'm sorry.
His wife was my boss. They live in like Silver Spring. It's like really fancy out there, y'all. It's too fancy for people who drink Genesee, y'all.
Here's the thing to always remember. Chris Matthews is a cop.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And I got told that I was the problem because they kept me in Maryland Democrats. They kept me out of the area that I grew up in. I spent 10 years of my life, and they lost one of those seats by 800 votes. I could do that in a weekend. Give me a car ride. I could do that in a weekend. Come on, let's go. Yeah. Let's go. We got this. No problem. This is literally, hey, you know what? I know you. I remember you. You went to the pool with me. I remember you. You played baseball with me. And this is how you actually run a campaign. And if you're going to run on the ground level, you send your people where they are strong. Let me tell you what Maryland Democrats did. And I had to deal with this because this was fallout that was on my watch. We have a very old Jewish neighborhood here. It's Pikesville. I don't know if you've heard of it. We joke about Pikesville because it's nice, but it's very old. It's one of the original Baltimore County towns. So it's generally speaking, as far as expanding out of Baltimore City, where I am in my nice little humble abode right now. As far as expanding out, that was one of the first towns. That was one of the first towns outside of Baltimore City. And so it's kind of older. They got like a little main street and everything, and it's definitely is one of the older towns. But it was also very, very old Jewish, and I heard a lot of racist stuff coming out of there. And I realized like I'm not Jewish, but I look the part. So I had a lot of people speaking Yiddish to me, and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. I hope it's not a slur, because I don't know what to say, and I don't know what you're saying. But in all seriousness, they sent a black staffer out there. That guy got a whole lot of crap on the doors, came to me angry, because a whole bunch of old white racist ladies were giving him a bunch of shit. And I said, look, you're entirely in your right. Go home if you want. Raise hell if you want. I will go back you. I don't care. These people don't care about me. I don't care about them. I knew that. That was already settled. So I just wanted to make sure that guy was taken care of. Fuck them. They're not caring what we want to do. I want to send that guy who grew up in Essex to Essex. I want to send me who grew up in Dundalk to Dundalk. They're right next door to each other, by the way. I know you're all unfamiliar with East Baltimore geography, but they are the two podunk towns in East Baltimore County, and I grew up in both of them. Okay, I grew up the son of a union carpenter and a waitress, and I will bet my bottom dollar I'll be fighting for the working class till the day I die. So anyway, that's a little primer about who I am. I'm so glad to be here. This is so cool. I'm glad we finally got this working, y'all.
Yeah.
And now that we have a moment, this is Justin Sindall. He is the new, as he said, membership. I My brain is
I am the co-membership coordinator of the Maryland Green
That's
Party.
right.
Elect.
co-membership coordinator.
Elect.
Potentially in exile, but we
Yeah.
want every seat by 10%. Like,
So that's a good start.
So I should bring you up to speed on that. Y'all should know what we have tried to go through to actually do what, pretty much what Nevada Democrats wish they could do, but they're still corporate owned. So trust me, because I know the co-chair of the Nevada Green Party. She's one of my mentors, and she's like, yeah, they haven't contacted us. Yeah, they're not doing anything to fix the ballot here. Are you kidding? So until they're actually going to put their money where the mouth is and come meet us somewhere on a level, we got to have a different strategy. And that's where I come in. We can't run the same campaigns we have always run. We can't run like how the corporate parties do, because they can take billion-dollar donors. They can call Bernard Schwartz or Michael Bloomberg or the CEO of IBM and get them on the phone. By the way, IBM is in top 5 in the Democratic Party's DCCC contributions. They literally could not get through the top 5 without having a corporate donor. We decided we were going to as activists. We've all been old heads in this. I've been working in the Baltimore area since actually I consider Occupy being the seeds that grew to fruition here, and I ended up becoming a part of what became the Progressive Student Alliance at my school after I left, but was called the Rainbow Club before that. So I have a problem when some TERFs decide they want to try and sabotage the closest thing we have to a proper leftist non-corporate party in Maryland. I take that personally. And
I think that's important. I think that there's been a bit of a weird slide with certain states' green parties. Georgia, for instance.
That is called DNE, or what we call DNE, which should be douche nozzles egregiously or something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but it's really called dialogue, not expulsion. It is a TERF narrative. That is plain and simple. It is a TERF narrative. Georgia signed on. We wanted to de-accredit them. And I've heard it from several people in national committee who were like, we've had enough of this bullshit. We want to get rid of them. We're done. We're done. We're tired of these clowns in this clown car. Because, look, I just have to look at this objectively, and I'm taking over, and this is literally my first year being a green. But I have to take an honest survey of the results here, and y'all got the shit kicked out of you, and you were susceptible to a 5-year smear campaign that was based on bullshit, according to Aaron Monte, and I believe him because he covers this shit. But this was a 5-year smear campaign over Russiagate, and I do believe that's what dropped the Green Party numbers from Jill Stein in 2016 about 75 to 80%.
Well, I know there were a lot of people who didn't like that Howie was a Russiagator and wanted one of several other people instead. That was how they put it.
I still think that's like a tenth of that. That does not affect the 5-year smear campaign going on from mainstream media about you're gonna. But you know what? If they did the same thing they did in 2000 with Ralph Nader, the only difference is Al Gore had the votes in 2000. Al Gore had the votes. Look up the Brooks Brothers riot. That was an astroturfed campaign. The GOP ran that, and they shut the thing down, and they just said, all right, yeah, whatever. They're going to complain too much. We're going to do whatever we got to do.
And they basically cut off the counting at the exact moment that W had the right number of votes to win.
Of course.
And then if they counted the rest of that county, that potentially he would not have had the votes to win.
Yeah.
And when those people at the Brooks Brothers riot, when they use the word "our," they don't mean it like a burner, like a Bernie person when they say "us" or "our," or agreeing when they say "us" or "our." When those Brooks Brothers people said this isn't our democracy, they meant literally the people standing there.
Yes, exactly.
They were all paid for,
and the people
they were all paid for. They were GOP operatives.
Roger Stone paid for that.
Yep, Roger Stone and Jeb Bush paid for that. You're welcome. That is what your tax dollars paid for in Florida, y'all. Maybe, I don't know, just saying, maybe you shouldn't trust a bunch of corrupt bastards to make your decisions for you. Look, I'm just going to say, whether it's a swing state like Florida or whether it's a one-party state like Maryland, like right here, the money flows to where the power is. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be a disruptive force, you need to do so. You need to use subterfuge. You need to do so kind of on the stealth. And I believe in kind of guerrilla campaigning. So where you're doing mutual aid, but you're like, hey, we got an insurgent party here. We're not bought. We're the only ones who aren't bought, in fact. And I always say we need a 50-state solution for this. I believe this in my heart of hearts. I don't care what minor leftist party you are part of. I do not care. You could be a part of the monster raving loony party, and goddamn, I believe we should have one of those in America. Where it's just where one party system rules. You run some loony party people just to make them have to answer stupid questions. If you are not familiar with the UK's monster raving loony party, please look it up. It's great. It's great.
The monster raving loony party is currently in power in the UK. That's the problem.
They actually are? Holy shit, I did not know that. Well, no, but they're there to challenge both parties' power. They're there to challenge the Tories and Labour wherever they have a stronghold. So it's a party. Imagine a party for the coast to challenge, but then you get the opposite edge of that party to challenge in the Midwest. It's both edges of the sword. It's because their whole goal is to make a mockery of whoever's in power who's doing fuck all. No. And there's a lot of in power who is doing fuck all. We can tell you in America, we got plenty of those.
Plenty of them.
We want to get rid of all 434 of them.
Or 35.
35. I know. I actually I went to P-Trip with Ilhan. You can find that picture on my Twitter. So I've known her since I've known her since she was going for state senate, and I'm like, wow. You're really getting shit on. I wonder what the pitch is going to have to be to get you to come over to the good guys. Come on now. But no, I know it's a long shot. I realize that. But I got to say, they really nailed it with how many scapegoats they got, how many outs they've got on everything. They figured this all out. Because honestly, I think the left telegraphed themselves. I do.
They've got people thinking that the only reason people kept dying of COVID after Trump was president was anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
they really got a lot of people convinced of that.
We're going through Delta variant right now, and that shit takes 15 seconds, y'all. I'm fully vaxxed. I'm still masking. I don't give a fuck. I got one right here. I got my good mythical morning mask right here, y'all. I got to put it in the right camera there. But but no, I'm serious. Even still, doesn't matter. You know why? Because I'm not going to be that dick that gets everybody else infected. I don't want to be that guy. And also, too.
Former President Trump. Okay, yeah, nobody wants to be him.
Yeah. What's funny, though, he's an admitted germaphobe. He knew about this shit.
Oh yeah,
he knew about this shit. He knew how bad it was.
Oh yeah,
because this was out here for 5 months at least.
But we know
by the time they shut down the primary.
But that's every Fox News anchor that pretends, yeah, real men touch poop and smear it on their face or whatever the fuck they say about.
They do that now?
I
didn't know smearing feces was something that could get on cable news now. If it did, they've lowered the standard.
Coronavirus, you know.
Are millennials really killing cable news that bad that they got to put smearing feces on your face on TV now? Is that a thing now?
I feel like I have
only figuratively speaking.
I feel like I have.
I mean, hey, you know what? Woo! War paint.
I
got a little blood on my fingers, so there you go.
Thing possible when describing Fox News, because anytime I do catch a bit of Fox News, it's always so much worse than I'm actually imagining it's going to be.
It's a nonstop clown show. I know. Yeah.
Something very bad when I see this is a Fox News clip. Oh God.
The worst part is if you're listening to Chris Wallace having one of his sane moments where he remembers.
Isn't he on MSNBC now? Didn't they hire him? Am I missing something? I thought they hired him after he got fired because he wasn't pro-Trump enough or something.
No.
I might be mistaken, but I thought he was on the outs.
Chris Wallace is still there. Shepard Smith quit Fox and went to work for CNN.
That's who I thought so. That's who I was thinking of. It was one of the two quote-unquote neutral ones. That's all I remembered. I couldn't remember which one.
Well, Shepard Smith is conservative enough. He just cries when people die because, you know, he can't help himself.
Also, I got a little grazing from the pepperoni, y'all can see. This is all taped up now because he got me a couple times. Green Party's interesting. Do you mind if I answer this question since this is coming from me?
That's why we're putting it up here.
QKR Socialist. Looks like you have a Norwegian flag in your handle. S. Green Party is interesting. Is there transformative justice, marginalized communication, leadership engagement, multicultural expertise, and traditionally oppressed community priorities? Let me start backwards to forwards. Traditionally oppressed community priorities. I can absolutely say yes. We are in the areas that the Democrats don't want to go, that they take for granted. And I'm in Baltimore. I've grown up here all my life. I remember I grew up in Baltimore County. It's a swing county, but it's one of the four that Democrats have to win in order to keep power here. So generally they go all out. In my entire life, up until the time I was an adult, and I've been living here in this house where, you know, I've kind of been here ever since I was like 17 and a half or something. Like I was almost out of high school when I moved here, and just kind of finished out there because it just made more sense. But ever since I've been here, that's the only time I've ever been pitched. Okay. And I realize, because I grew up in that neighborhood, how much of a purple area it is, how much those people are working class, and how easy it is to win them over. And that is what we call dereliction of duty. That is, you are not doing your job of rounding up working class people. And so, yes, traditionally oppressed community priorities are primo, because guess what? A lot more of us are getting left out where the Democrats are going. Democrats are going toward the Reagan Republicans. And that means the WASP community, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants in the suburbs. That's the Democrats' new base. That's where they sent me. They did not tell me to go knock doors in a neighborhood where I grew up and had family and had friends and had people who grew up with me and people who voted for me for class president. Like, I've been running races here since I was 14 years old, and you don't send me here? Are you serious? We played pickup football back here in the yard. What are you going to do?
I know people that have run insurgent campaigns of different kinds, either in the Democratic Party or as a Green or as an independent or different things. And I know one person in particular who talked about, going to neighborhoods where people would answer the door and be like, "Are you sure that you're supposed to be here?" Like no one comes here. No one comes here. So are you sure that you're supposed to be?
I've heard that so many times.
That's like so distressing. But honestly, at the same time, like that's how I would feel if a political pollster showed up at my door. I've never had one. I've canvassed.
You know what?
And let me tell you what I've never had a good campaigner would do.
A good campaigner would say, you know what? Yeah, you know why you haven't seen anybody here? Because nobody's giving a shit enough to come here. But I do. And if you are serious about campaign, you don't have to do it like I do it. Like I realize I'm a loudmouth and I have to speak over a crowd a lot of times. So oftentimes I got this personality that's a little bit larger than life. You know what I mean? But you got to be able to say, hey, you know what? Nobody's done it because they don't care about your issues. I care about your issues. I care about Medicare for all. I care about ending the wars. You know why? Because there's a lot of working class people that go fight them, foreign and domestic. I was just talking about the how we should have country of origin labels that specify if the goods that you were buying were made with prison labor or not. This is huge for me. You know why? Because a lot of people I know are dead or in prison. It's not a fucking game to me. This is my life. I'm sitting here an hour before airtime crying my eyes out because I have people who've been in a band with me for 10 years who I had to fucking bury, who can't afford to fucking have a headstone because they died penniless, because they died at 32 years old. This is not a game to me. I care about these people. I'd go to the mat for them. If you actually believe the bullshit that you are selling, you'll go to the mat for them too. And that's what I have to tell people in groups of 50, 100 at a time. If you care about what you're doing, it's going to show. The proof is in the pudding. You're going to see it. You're going to see it. If I care, if I knock on your door and I pitch you and I give a shit about the issues, you're going to see it. And I might not get them all right. I don't need them to be all right. I need them to be like 90% correct. You know, I need them to be close enough for rock and roll. Look, I might not be getting everything correct, but you can look it up, and I think I'm remembering this correct, and blah blah blah. Whatever the story might be. I know I've been around the block when it comes to campaigning. I've been doing this for a decade now. I've done this commercially. I've done this politically, and I noticed the difference between the two. And let me tell you, politically speaking, they're fucking it when they want to talk about how you be effective on the doors. They don't know a thing. I'm just saying, they don't know what they're talking about when they teach people how to do whatever they're doing. These people make way too much money and they're way not enough connected, and they've never had to make their money knocking on people's doors for a living.
Well, I think
so. I've had to do that and kind of merge that into what I have now. I'm sorry, Kennedy, go ahead.
I think this is part of the important power that the activist left could potentially be wielding more. And I like to always point to Ed Markey as the best example we have recently of like this action being obviously, utilized, is that the activist left are the people that do the canvassing. Even when I was doing really lib canvassing in my like early 20s, even when for like human rights campaign and organizations,
we've all done it. We've all done it.
Even when I was doing the absolute most lib campaign, it was an office full of freaking anarchists. Like, even when you're doing campaigns like that, the people actually out there doing that work are the like absolute like punk left in a lot of cases.
And look, I'll be honest with you. Like, it might be a little different here because I dealt with a lot of sweater vest crowd, and I'm not that. I'm not that. But no, like that was mostly our office was mostly ringers. Instead of bringing up the interns that you might have had before and saying, hey, you grew up in this area, you go to, Towson, which is in Baltimore County. You go to Towson University. Maybe you should run our Baltimore County campaign with us. Come on, help us out. Instead of that, they brought in people from Pennsylvania, from Florida, from New York. And I was the only person in that county who knew that county. I'm the only person who grew up there.
I just want to build off of what you're saying, because here's the thing: is that what you're talking about is like basically when there's something exciting that needs to be done for the political work, they bring someone in, they fly them in, and stuff, and then, but there's canvassing that goes on year round in every city. There are canvassing operations that go on year round.
Oh yeah,
and the people doing that work, those are leftists.
Kennedy, I'm an hour from DC.
Nobody does that work, 365 for years and years and years, except for actual people who have some kind of actual meaningful attachment to the activism. And so, we could utilize that power more and demand that, this be recognized, that you're actual people on the ground who can do the most effective grassroots organizing. You got to appeal to us at some point.
One of the things that we really have to do, though, if we want people to take us seriously as the left, is we have to stop voting for Democrats who do not share our values.
I generally say just stop voting for Democrats, because I broke the AOC story. Y'all know this. Maybe the audience doesn't, but after you have to dig through the Democrats' finances for long enough, and you find that they give $130,000 to corporate Democrats out of our money.
Oh, yeah.
Out of our money? Look, I didn't give money to her. The only person I gave money to last campaign was Franken Mueller-Paz. You know why? Because she got 40% as a green in 100 days. That's why I gave money to her. She got a $27 donation from me. I ain't got that much money, dog. I'm an activist. I'm just here working poor like everybody else. I'm a son of a union carpenter and a waitress. I tell people that every single day, but I go to the mat for working people. And I know where our bread is buttered. And let's not be a fool about it. Let's be real about who actually is going to go to the mat for us. And it's going to be somebody who doesn't take the dirty money, or somebody who is not trying to gain influence in a party that takes the dirty money. Because guess what? No matter how much money you can raise on the left, you cannot compete with the Democrats. You know why? Look at Prop 22 in California. Look at how much money Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, everybody in the rideshare economy, the gig economy, poured into that fucking race. Look at how much money they paid, and then look at what happened to the unions, and they got smashed. We gotta fight differently. We can't fight them on the same level footing. They always have the advantage. We have to undercut them somehow. That's the trick.
I want to give a shout out to a comrade of mine, Paperboy Prince, who's
Paperboy Prince. Shout out.
Unconventional campaigns in New York, and regardless of whether or not you think everything about Paperboy's strategies or policies or whatever, blah blah blah,
what a legend!
You can't deny is that they've been consistently getting the most votes per least dollars spent of any candidate in their races. And anybody who's serious about finding a different way, needs to be looking at things like that, because if Paperboy can get 15-16% of the vote in a congressional campaign against a actually not even like the worst person in Congress, you know what I mean? Like
you gotta remember,
like a ghoul, like some people, you know what I mean?
Where are we getting 15-16%
for the congressional run?
Is that for
you mean mayor?
That for mayor and the cumulative?
No, before mayor.
No, because the only people who had double digits in that race were Maloney and Siraj. Everyone else was single digits.
It was like 8 or 9%, but it was still
because third place was Lauren Ashcraft with like 3%. And
that's a different race. You're mixing
I loved her.
He wasn't in that race.
Yeah, he was in the same district as Lauren. They met during the campaign.
I don't know, so y'all have it out.
I don't think they were in the same race.
I don't know.
I think that was two different districts.
Which district was he running in?
Figure it out.
This is where a researcher would be great.
Don't think it was Melanie. Oh, give me just a sec. I got to get my cat out of here.
No problem. Actually, give me 30 seconds myself.
Show.
My foot is asleep, and also I probably have to wrap my wrist again. So I'll be right back. Because I love my dog. I hate my dog. I love my dog. He's just trying to be a good dog, you know. He's just trying to be helpful, and he just kind of, you know, wants to be a little too helpful sometimes. And he's got a little bit of that old dog thing going on. So
yeah, Paperboy was in District 7.
District 7.
Running against Nydia Velasquez.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it was just Paperboy. And actually, they got 19%.
That's pretty good.
Against someone who is not even like a particularly disliked person in Congress.
She's not.
Now, I know we could make criticisms. I'm just saying, though, if we were to
she didn't.
The random person on the street.
She didn't.
Be right
give
back,
a
y'all.
speech.
I'll be right back. Give me like a minute.
She didn't give a speech in a burqa about why we should invade Afghanistan. Like
you can find people that are far more.
Well, you know, I mean, when you consider that Elliot Engel was in New York, Carolyn Maloney is still in New York, Hakeem Jeffries is in New York. I mean, there have been some bad people in Congress in New York from the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so to run
Grace Meng,
who's not even hated like
Grace
that.
Meng is a progressive. She takes so much cop money, it's not funny, but a lot of people think she's a progressive.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in New York.
I know. Though, you know, I mean, it's hilarious. Bill de Blasio was such a disappointment taking on the NYPD, and yet the NYPD still felt that they had to dox his daughter because they were so pissed at him after what was really a very lackluster attempt to stand up to them. I mean, so the hard question is, okay, did de Blasio or David Dinkins make more of a fake attempt to stand up to the NYPD while giving them everything they wanted? And it's hard to decide who was less real about it. But what's genuine is that they were both hated by the NYPD just for faking it. I mean, if you even pretend to infringe on them just a little bit,
that's too much. They
went on strike because of John Lindsay.
The police force in this country, they all have this mentality. They cannot take even one loss. They literally are not capable.
It's not even loss. It's opposition. They can't even handle opposition.
No, they can't. And they can't. I'm just saying they can't take one criticism. They can't have one thing where they back down and say we were wrong, or, you know, we failed, or something, the kind of basic thing that like regular people have to deal with, or even non-regular. I mean, let's talk about, like, you know, famous sports teams or things like that, right? Like, you know, even if you're one of the top players in the world, your team loses sometimes, and you just have to say we lost. You can't spend all day going, well, it's not our fault because this and that and the other. People hate you.
Let's take the national pastime. The very best hitters in the game miss 7 out of 10 times.
With the national pastime, you mean Minecraft? I'm just kidding.
Alleged national pastime of baseball. The best hitters in baseball are out 7 of 10 times.
That's a lot.
70% of the time, they're out.
Oh. Sorry, I apologize. I had to check on everything that was going on with,
of course,
my
you got plenty
personal situation here. Oh, I got Montreal screw jobs. I got bit by my dog. Just what the hell else is coming on? Like I said,
so
about the leadership engagement, multicultural expertise. I realize we did not get to a lot of that question. I apologize. Our focus right now is that we want to do that. That's why we took over the party. That's why we tried to take over the party and run a whole ballot. We ran a whole campaign. We ran mdgreenballot.com. We treated this seriously. We won because we were trying to get rid of transphobia in this party, and we were trying to get rid of a bunch of people who wanted to treat this like a social club instead of a way to actually win some seats and challenge the Democrats in a 70% Democrat state, mind you.
Justin, I truly want you to know that it's meaningful to hear someone talk about this, because I have made it perfectly loud and clear that it is not acceptable for me as a non-binary trans person to be told that I have to accept a Green Party that is supporting that stuff. And I'm pro-Green in general.
I believe it.
You know?
I believe it. Absolutely. You should not deal with a transphobic Green Party. You know why? Because that's called sabotage. That's called sabotage. That's because we have a bunch of people who either want to turn it into a social club, or we have a bunch of people who want to subvert us so that they can drive votes to the Democrats. I know this because I'm an ex-Democratic operative. I can tell you all the dirty tricks. And I'm angry about all of them because they told me some shit that was bullshit. They lied to me outright on day one. You know what my first question was? When do I go to Essex? When do I go to Dundalk? When do I go to those working class areas? Let me go. Let me go talk to some people who never voted before. Let's go turn them into some voters. Let's turn them into some angry leftists. Let's go tell them how much the system is fucking them, and let's go make something of it. Let's go make some chicken salad out of some chicken shit that y'all have made for the last 25 years in this fucking state, okay? How do I put this nicely? How do I put this nicely? You bastards fucked us. And now I'm dealing with another set of bastards that are fucking us. What the fuck? I really sympathize with the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia skit about, well, we get ass blasted by the Republicans, we get ass blasted by the Democrats. Well, I'm getting ass blasted by the Democrats, I'm getting ass blasted by the Greens. What the fuck? It's just, I mean, what am I going to say? Right now we are dealing with two co-chairs who announced 2/3 of the seats to an assembly of all of us on Saturday. We had a public meeting on Saturday on Zoom. We announced 2/3 of the seats. My name was called twice. On Wednesday, they say those weren't official. Wait, whoa, back fucking bunch of wankery to say, hey, wait, those results that we announced ourselves are no good. They were only tentative, even though in the bylaws it says you're supposed to announce the results at the membership convention. That's our bylaw. That's our rules. You announced right there as you're going through the annual convention. And so they said all of our names, 2/3 of them, aside from co-chair and the delegates to the national committee. Everybody else was mentioned by name. My partner, Devaney, was mentioned as treasurer. I was mentioned as co-membership coordinator. We were all announced by name and said, these are the final results. We have these races to call. And now, 3 days later, because they got butthurt about the results and they got a bunch of transphobes who are friends with some people in the Green Party who want to kind of fuck us. QKR Socialist, I'm guessing that's Quaker Socialist. I agree. Look, the Green Party should speak to you on the issues, because on the issues, we're supposed to agree. But you know what they did? They sabotaged us. When we had, I think the oldest person on this ticket is like 45. We had a ticket of all young people, activists, people who've been in the fight for years. We had a really cool team. And you can go check us. The link's still active, mdgreenballot.com. You can still check us out. We're still here. We're going to function as a government in exile, because we were duly elected by the membership committee. By the way, we damn near doubled the votes that they got in 2017 when they did this the last time or whatever. We doubled the vote turnout for a party election. We ran a real campaign and we won decisively, and now they're not trying to seat us. And now they're trying to fuck me out of both my seats. So guess what I'm going to tell them? guess who's now?
Well,
by the way, I want to read my official statement because I did have that. If you will allow me to do that, but please bring up your point. I'll pull it up. I wanted to say this on the record here, so that you could have this, because now I feel like it's all ruined. We got to get this out of here somewhere. I didn't waste this effort.
I remember, and Kennedy's spoken to someone who's probably more reliable on this than my source, but I remember from speaking to one of the disgruntled losers in the Green Party presidential primary.
Would that person would their name rhyme with Mario Gunther?
No, that's not
interesting. Interesting. That's not the person that I thought then.
No,
okay, go ahead. Go off, Cam.
My source basically said that Howie cheated everybody, and that Dario was a Democratic Party plant, whereas whereas the Howie people agreed with that Dario was a Democratic Party plant, but didn't believe that Howie cheated.
Wait, how does that work? Does anybody want to explain that? Anybody? This sounds a little daft to me.
And it's just very, very funny how different groups accepted different parts of each other's propaganda in order to make their points. And it's
a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's really what it is. It is. I want confirmation bias, so I'm only going to believe what I want to hear.
A guy with no actual connection to anyone in the Green Party. And the only reason this was possible is because the Green Party is so disorganized that no one
I know.
Now it's somebody who says, I'm with the Green Party. But a bunch of people were genuinely convinced to volunteer time and or money to a Jesse Ventura campaign that did not happen.
I'm one of them. Hello over here. And by the way, at Gen Z for Jesse V, by the way, I noticed that you blocked me and kicked me out of the fucking group. I'm just going to say, y'all are clowns. Because I was in that group, by the way. For the record, I was in that group. I got kicked out and blocked when I'm like, y'all don't have a claim.
I had a friend who thought she was becoming the Green Party chairperson for Florida. So it's all
oof. Hey, Florida's its own jam. I have no idea about Florida, y'all. Florida's
the guy who on
that is where politics goes to die.
And follows me, so maybe I'll ask him.
Florida is where politics goes to die in America.
Well, Florida and Arizona, where everybody goes to die in America.
Well, I mean, unless you go to Texas, but usually the wealthy people go to Texas.
Oh, wealthy people in New Mexico now.
Rumsfeld
died in New Mexico.
Quit doing it. I need to buy a house. Someday.
I want to crab rave now. You mentioned Rumsfeld dying. I want to crab rave now. I'm sorry.
Yes, Donald Rumsfeld dying is.
That's that and the MVA are the only good things that happened to me today. I'm saying the MVA was a good thing. We got out there in 20 minutes. It was a good thing. We got out. Devaney had the point. We got out there in 20 minutes. It was great. It was actually no bullshit. We got out. That was the easiest part of my fucking day. Okay. I just had to ride along and be like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna sit here and play football on my phone.
I admit that I was fortunate enough, I think, to get pretty close to the first reply to the announcement of Donald Rumsfeld's death. And I just asked straight up, was it a pack of wild boars? And
one could only hope.
The best response someone gave me was peccaries because, New Mexico.
There you go. Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, maybe a pack of coyotes.
I just, I hope that Donald Rumsfeld finally gets to the bottom of it. Are there WMDs in hell? We need to know.
Well, so here's the thing. that this is all a con because Donald Rumsfeld was Satan the whole time?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Although, see, now you just mess with my bit because I was just going to say, like, now Donald Rumsfeld can actually report back to George Bush on whether if he owned Texas or hell, would he rather live in Texas or hell? You actually have firsthand experience. It's one of your boys. Come on, man.
You have the data.
Okay.
After all these years, it's amazing.
Yeah, you can go find out firsthand.
This doesn't relate to anything else, but I kind of wanted to answer Quaker Socialist's question about the police from earlier.
Oh, yes.
I didn't see that. Could you ask that?
This is actually good.
Because we were talking, Justin, while you were gone, we were mostly talking about the NYPD. And
knock your punk ass down?
Yeah.
As I remember it. Like, I used to live in New York, too. So, like, I've had a couple brush-ins with NYPD.
Yeah, they're unpleasant individuals. And so I think this is a really interesting question because I think actually
and yet they're still better than Baltimore police.
So
there are parallels.
I will
go first, Chris.
Say at this point that Frank Serpico is actually on Twitter.
Okay.
Since we've been talking about the NYPD.
Fair enough.
and he did have some interesting things to say about John Lindsay. Even John Lindsay's police reform was fake. And NYPD still went on strike.
True. That's a whole.
Yeah.
That's actually. We should do an episode about that maybe or something.
Funny enough,
one
of the whistleblowers about NYPD, Ed Norris, actually ended up here with a radio show, and he's talked in depth about the corruption in NYPD. Yeah. It is, and he's on a morning drive show. It's great, but it's true.
So here's what I think about that is that I think there's layers of abstraction, but that doesn't make it better. And it varies a lot by state and county and things like that, but that doesn't excuse how bad it is in the worst places. With that in mind, I think that people should absolutely, if you are not reading the news about Myanmar every day and thinking that this could be us in 10 years if we don't do something to fix the problems, and you know,
Burkina Faso, yo.
Like, we're looking at a situation where, you know, in the way that the NYPD behaves, go look at that and then compare that to, I can't remember what the Myanmar National Security whatever are calling themselves these days. They change their name all the time. But compare that kind of behavior to the way the NYPD or the LAPD or one of the worst police departments in this country acts. And in my opinion, you will see that they are headed on that direct path towards the fascist arm of any, you know, whatever.
Easy, straight up comparison. I think everybody on the stream and in the chat would agree that the Israeli Defense Force is committing genocide. So,
and not just them, but everybody who's been helping them, including U.S. businesses who have been going over there and providing aid.
Of course. But with that in mind, the Israeli Defense Force was trained by a bunch of American officers who, with the unofficial permission of their commanding officers, resigned their commissions and snuck out of the country and into Israel to train the Israeli army during the 1948 war. One of them, one of the more famous ones, was played by Kirk Douglas in the classic Cast a Giant Shadow. Mm-hmm. And he was actually murdered by, well, either on purpose or accidental. Is less left up in the air. But he was killed at a checkpoint by an Israeli soldier, and he had been investigating claims of war crimes in the rear shortly before he was shot.
That makes sense, given where we were and about that point in our.
But anyway, so a bunch of Americans trained the Israeli Defense Force.
Yeah.
Now,
And by the way, they were ex-Nazis too.
In the years since, the Israeli Defense Forces have adopted all sorts of novel methods for combating urban insurgencies. And they have put on training seminars for American police who come to Israel to train with the Israeli Defense Forces or with private groups that are composed of veterans of the IDF. And these people train our cops.
It's brutal. Yeah. And I'm on the East Coast. Yeah, I see this all the time.
Our cops are trained by people committing genocide against Palestinians to treat poor people in American cities, most especially black people, but poor people in general, like Palestinians in the West Bank.
And I'm gonna hit on another point here that's gonna kind of piggyback on that. Consider when Israel was formed, 1947. Consider what happened in the 2 years before that. A general strike in the United States. Guess what else happened? Taft-Hartley. Taft-Hartley cut the nuts off of fucking organizing in America.
Yes.
Taft-Hartley bit us in the fucking balls. It was a response to a general strike. It's what we want to do is now outlawed. We gotta seriously address this because they can fucking come in and cage us. And we gotta seriously talk about this because I don't think a lot of the left understands how serious Taft-Hartley is as far as crippling a general strike.
I'm gonna break in here. I think they should, and I think they should not let it stop us.
I don't think so either, but I think they should know what they're in for.
Yes, we should know what we're in for. I agree, and it is very serious, and it's worth talking about. But all the things that were won up to the point where Taft-Hartley were passed were won by unions doing exactly the things that Taft-Hartley outlawed. And
a dozen years before with the Wagner Act, yes.
Until the National Labor Relations Act was passed in the 30s, all those things were illegal in the first place.
Yes, and it was the Wagner Act that made it illegal in 1935.
The most important and productive period of labor activism in American history was all illegal. They were committing a crime.
Yeah, absolutely. Although we have to realize too that 100 years ago they didn't have the things that they have now to beat us down, and we have to fight differently because of this. We can't treat this as our brother and sisters did 100 years ago when they were fighting Blair Mountain.
Let's not even talk about such a long time scale, honestly, right now, because I want to talk about two recent things that have happened with the police that I think aren't getting enough coverage yet, especially in the context of the police getting more violent, which is kind of hard to comprehend, I think, for most people, actually. I think people are struggling to understand what it even means for that to happen, that's happening, etc. So first of all, the wonderful NYPD pepper sprayed a peaceful Pride March this week. That should not go unnoticed. That is extremely scary, dangerous fascism.
Oh my God, you mentioned that. I was at a Pride March in 2007, maybe 8 in New York City, and they were tear gassing motherfuckers on the streets. I was there.
And
this was over a decade ago, but we were running and screaming. It was
a decade ago, though. I mean, this is the same year, 2021, when we're being told it's all over. Look, corporations love Pride now. It's fine. The cops love
Pride now.
Yeah.
They're
participating all right.
In Baltimore, they put Black Trans Lives Matter.
Yeah.
It's so damning. In Baltimore, they literally put Black Trans Lives Matter on the street, spray painted giant lettering, where most trans sex workers get murdered in Baltimore City. You want to make my blood boil? That's how you make my blood boil, okay? You really, you raging hypocrites? This is where you do this? This is what you do instead of actually putting people here to make sure sex workers don't get fucking killed.
So,
as I said, I take this personally. I take oppression of our communities here in Baltimore personally because we've been redlined and we've been shitholed as long as we've been around. So I take this very personally. And I do believe that is pandering. That's bullshit. That is typical Democrat wankery in this city.
We have Baltimore politics to thank. Ultimately, we have
Thank you, Nancy Pelosi.
Speaker of the House. Yes, that's where I was going.
The D'Alessandro crime family, as we have called them here in Baltimore. Hashtag D'Alessandro crime family. Go search it. By the way, I want to tell you this story. I know it's anecdotal, but as I was growing up, my grandfather was a dog groomer. So he groomed dogs in their houses and everything. So I went around the city and I got to see a whole bunch of people, see how a whole bunch of people lived, talk to a whole bunch of people. It got me ready for canvassing before I was even knee-high to a duck. But let me tell you, I remember when I was like 7 or 8 years old, going to a very large house from a very well-off cop who married upward because, you know, of course, you meet the right people and you can marry up. And I remember hearing when they were talking to my grandfather saying, you know, when I got to the force, I remember people saying, oh, it was a whole lot easier when we could drag them to a back alley and beat the shit out of them. And we didn't have to file a bunch of fucking paperwork. I heard that verbatim.
I believe it.
And that stuck with me. And now in like 2021, we've already in Baltimore, we've already seen in the last like 5 years, our drug task force was planting drugs and got caught. Our gun task force was planting guns and got caught.
You know, one of the
if anybody's going to say abolish the fucking police, it's got to be the guys who see, hey, all these motherfuckers are corrupt.
The one cop show everybody needs to watch is Hill Street Blues, where a recurring theme is how the Special Narcotics Task Force is completely corrupt and everyone on it is either doing drugs, selling drugs, or performing hits for the mob.
Yep. Welcome to Baltimore. This is what our police force is. And by the way, they are imported from York County, Pennsylvania. They're not even actually living here. They're an occupying army.
Now there is a movie based on a book, loosely based on a formerly real place where Queens and Long Island come together.
Yeah, okay.
Called Copland, which is about the town where the NYPD lives.
I lived a year on Long Island.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fucking cops on Long Island.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. But there's this fictional place. It used to be a real place. There was a neighborhood where Queens,
Nassau County. I kind of know where you're talking about as far as actual towns like Long Beach and stuff.
Yeah, but and in that spot where Queens and Long Island come together, I can't remember whether it was an actual town on Long Island or whether it was technically part of Queens. But there's this little slice where the NYPD lived.
Yeah, and they kind of chose their own neighborhood and carved everything out. Yes. And you can, I'm not 100% sure on this, and so I'm spitballing. That was probably a Robert Moses thing. It sounds like a Robert Moses thing. It sounds like a Robert Moses. So I'm kind of spitballing here, but I kind of think that was a Robert Moses thing. And that he kind of, when he was kind of destroying Brooklyn and Queens, he probably put a bridge through somewhere and said, hey, we got you a spot for the cops over here, huh?
Yeah.
But no, look, I look at the budgets here, and 8 out of the 10 top 10 city budgets are for cops who are getting overtime. There should be no cops getting overtime. You know why? That's how people get killed.
Yes.
That's how people get killed just from bad decision making. Because guess what you can't do at 90 hours a week? Make good decisions. I've worked 90 hours a week at a shithole job.
I got a question too. If they're getting all this overtime, how are we still at like 2% of rape kits solved? Like
because they're sleeping in the milk and the clock and the Dunkin' Donuts. That's why.
That's why. Curious, like they get all these extra hours, but those numbers don't go up.
You know what it is? They volunteer. Number one, they volunteer for desk duty. Number two, they volunteer to do dumb shit like watch the mayor's house, which, by the way, Martin O'Malley used to live down the street from me about 5 blocks down the road. So I got to see a Baltimore City cop sitting there 24/7 while they're making $150,000 in fucking overtime. Okay? So I know they're doing dumb. They're taking desk duty. They're taking patrol shifts. That should scare the shit out of everybody. These people are actively, and they've actually testified to say, like, we were taking overtime patrol shifts when they've killed people on their shift. Well, and this should scare the shit out of everybody.
Amber Geiger coming back from an overtime shift?
I believe so, I cannot confirm that, okay?
That sounds right. So while we're talking about the police killing people, let's talk about a 17-year-old who was killed in Arkansas.
Yes.
Last week.
Yeah, that one was
I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but Hunter Brittain, I believe, is the last name. And
I think you're right on that one.
This killing should definitely alarm people, even more so than the average. How am I saying this? Average police. These are words coming at what the fuck?
This is the one by the deputy sheriff.
Why is this in our vocabulary?
Why is this in my vocabulary? Exactly. But so this is the deputy sheriff. This should really disturb people because he did not speak to that teenager at all. That's beyond even what we're used to at this point.
There was a really disturbing one in Louisiana where a county sheriff's deputy pulled over this young white girl and shot her in the face. And nobody knows completely what happened or why she got shot. And he claimed self-defense, and I don't know what happened to it. It stopped being news after a little while.
I want
to say the profile of the usual police shooting, which is probably why media did not magnify it more.
Where was this? This rings a bell, but I do not remember where
it was. I don't remember the county. It was in the backwoods part of the state of Louisiana.
Okay, because that sounds like a personal grievance kind of thing.
And that's the sort of thing it potentially could have been. But nobody knows.
But you're not going to find out.
Let's talk about Hunter a little bit more, though, because...
Yeah, go ahead.
I really want to emphasize that not only did this police officer not speak to Hunter before shooting him, but also that the police officer didn't pull Hunter over. Hunter was working on his vehicle. Mm-hmm. His vehicle was already on the side of the road. The cop pulled over.
He was a disabled vehicle.
It is a disabled vehicle. The cop pulls over to see what's up with the disabled vehicle, which at that point, that part isn't necessarily bad.
That part's normal.
Cops even help in those situations once in a while.
Yeah. If you're lucky.
And
you're white.
But Hunter was white.
But
Hunter was white.
No,
we shouldn't have to emphasize, but we kind of do need to talk about that too,
but it also puts an additional layer of scrutiny on it, doesn't it? If we're going to be fair, because you're going to get white person drama.
Let me say something clearly here, because I know where you're going, and I understand the desire to have fun, to find something personal, but it's important to say this. And I'm not trying to minimize the fact that it happens at a higher percentage compared to the population for Black people. And you cannot minimize that part. Cannot be minimized.
No.
Police kill poor white people all the damn time. It's just news.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of it, we don't talk about copicide nearly enough. We don't, because I had friends who have done that We don't talk about this enough. This is not covered on mainstream news. We're not talking about what we're doing to our veterans and what we're doing to people who feel
police murder is always covered in terms of race for the simple and direct reason that as long as police murder is presented to a mass media audience as usually about race, white people will not care about police murder.
Oh yeah.
And it divides it in general, because you have police murdering different groups of people, but those people can't unite cleanly because it's not clear to everyone that this is happening. And so even in some cases there have been legitimate good faith BLM activists who said stupid shit about indigenous people getting murdered because they just didn't know or something like that. And it's like people don't understand that there's these, that this is happening to different groups around them, and the lack of that communication, the lack of that understanding leads to so many unnecessary problems. When if poor white people all understood that we're being murdered too, just slightly less, then this whole issue of can we unite with BLM?
I'm gonna be a cynic here, and I'm gonna say that like the cynic's way of looking at this is, the cops are already murdering black and brown people. So if the cops are talking about equality, that just means they're going to murder more white people. Well, they're just going to even the numbers. What are they going to do? They're just going to keep being a murdering force. They're just going to murder more white people.
That's why we need to get rid of them.
Exactly. And by the way, I hope you picked up. I put up a couple weeks ago because Baltimore City, we do not get control over our local city police. Annapolis, Maryland, the state government does. You know why? Because they see Baltimore as a ward of the state. Does that seem right for a city of 630,000 people?
No, it doesn't.
They see Baltimore as a ward of the state. You know why? Because they want to offload that shit. And the worst part about it is they offload it to that. By the way, kudos to the Democrats. They actually did one thing right this cycle. They repealed the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights in Maryland.
That's good.
They have no more Bill of Rights that tells them that they can get a week to propagate their story amongst their superiors and make sure their story checks out before they actually go in front of a judge. That's a great thing. By the way, you know what? Baltimore and Maryland Democrats, but especially Baltimore Democrats, because they were working with the Republicans, you know what they did? They decided, we can't help people who are going to get evicted, but we can give you a lawyer before you do. So we passed a bill that said you can get a lawyer before you get evicted, but we couldn't pass an eviction moratorium.
Yeah, thanks to good old Joe Kennedy, who personally put his muscle.
This was Maryland. Yeah. Well, but this was a local push, and to be fair, we were going to do this on the state level and put our own moratorium through till the end of 2021, and they stalled us because of the corporate corrupt ass Democrats, and the ones who actually wanted to do it, the only thing they could pass through was the lawyer bill. So we said, okay, hey, in Maryland, if you're getting evicted, you can get a lawyer, but you can't stop yourself from getting evicted or anything. You know,
I want to talk about these numbers because this is true. 40% cop families have domestic violence, but that's
what we just recorded.
This is
probably more like 60%.
Well, so these are people who self-reported.
Yeah.
So because this is the second part. They won't let the data be collected. So we can't go and ask their wives or their husbands or their kids.
And the wives or husbands or kids aren't gonna come out, at least not while they still think they could be killed.
I'm just gonna say it. 97%. That's my
probably
number.
Right. That's probably right. But this 40% are the cops who say, "Yeah, I beat them." When they're at, do you beat your significant other and or your children? They respond.
Yeah, I'm
yes,
going to say probably 3/4 at least. Honestly, just trying to give a ballpark number. I do realize there is a high amount of turnover for cops who want to be reformists and leave.
I'm not going to try to estimate the real numbers. I am going to point out that it is illegal for us to ask anybody but the police officer themselves about this. And that the 40% number are the ones who say, yes, I beat my significant other and or children when asked.
Just saying, that's a bunch of this right here.
The Sean Connery response.
Yeah,
that's a bunch of this right here. And if my other hand were working, I'm left hand dominant right now, and it's
If 40% of them will voluntarily admit it, it's again 97%. That 3% that doesn't have this problem are the 3% of police officers that join up and wash out within like 2 years.
I say it's 75% because you have to factor in the 10% that are single and haven't been indoctrinated yet enough, and the also 15% that is a revolving door when they see it's corrupt.
I don't buy
it. By the way, I'm just gonna say I know because I know how many people go through Baltimore cops and are like, I can't do that shit. Fuck that. You know what? I've talked to enough of them. I've talked to enough people who said I was a cop for like 2 years until I found out that's a bunch of bullshit. So what am I going to tell you? No. Okay. You know what? There's probably 10%, 10 to 15% are too new to know, and the other 10% are like too fit into the system, you know?
I know one person who was a criminal justice major and who trained to be a cop, and they were very politely nudged out of law enforcement as a career. And it was
give me Iggy, right? Give me Iggy.
They were too honest, and they were the sort of people who obey the rules and expect others to obey the rules.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Anybody who's actually a good person, they get out.
Looking, and I said, they were warning you that you were going to get killed, right? And looking back, this person's response was, oh, shit, I didn't really think about it that way, but yes, they were.
And it was going to be an inside job.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Some corrupt cop would plant some evidence to say that this was a bad faith actor because they are a mafia. They are the mafia.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck the Gambinos. It's the Popo.
Well, true story.
Fuck the Gambinos. The Gambinos ain't shit anymore. Look, I friends are friends. I know, but you know what? They're trading in cigarettes. They're trading in cigarettes. That's
true story. True story.
That's all they can do now. They're kneecapped. But you know what? The cops are where their hustle is.
It's true. No, true story. In Los Angeles, shortly after the end of World War II, the police department realized that there was a really good thing going there, and just taking bribes wasn't a big enough piece of the pie. And they helped the feds lock up Bugsy Siegel's successor, running organized crime on the West Coast, and took over the drug and sex work rackets themselves.
By the way, y'all, I've talked about this a little bit. I'm noticing it because I'm a little ADHD and I'm just like looking on the camera and I'm watching this. By the way, I had 100 stitches putting my face in shock trauma because I almost got murdered before Christmas, y'all. And I was trying to plan the Force the Vote rally at that point in time. And my face kept getting infected, so I couldn't be out there with those folks because I was not going to deal with a whole lot of oozing pus coming out of a bunch of open holes in my face. I'm sorry. I care enough about myself that I probably shouldn't be doing that, dog. But I will say it has given me resolve because I realize they didn't finish the job, dog. They didn't finish the job.
Let's go ahead and go back to brass tacks. Let's say that everything goes the way it's supposed to, and you and your 2/3 are running the Maryland Green Party. What's your next step?
To do something that has not been done before. You know what that is? That is to treat this like a guerrilla campaign. Nobody is trying to do this. You know what? Let me tell you something. You know what I'm taking over? I'm taking over a Maryland Green Party that sells $20 keychains and $30 cufflinks and has no t-shirts for offer. Does anybody here on planet Earth see the problem with this if we are trying to run a guerrilla campaign? You know what we need? T-shirts, hats, yard signs. Banners, big shit. Come on, people.
Some Green Party cufflinks at my wedding.
Go order them before I cut them the fuck off. Go order them. Kennedy, order them now, because if I get a hold of that site, they're gone. Order them now. You got one chance.
This joke is just a little obscure, but Kennedy should get it because we've had the Socialist Equality Party on the show, and he's spoken to Joseph Kishore. The only people who wear suits anymore are Trotskyists.
Hey, look, I look good in a suit. I got all my suits custom made, dog. I got all my suits custom made. I gotta look the part.
Cufflinks if the only people who wear suits anymore are Trotskyists.
I'm just gonna say it makes me feel bad that I got rose cufflinks like 2 years ago, dog. Because, like, look, I like to look good, okay? I know I'm just coming on a t-shirt and some shorts, but it's 105 degrees today. I still like to look good out on the field. I still wear a suit and tie to the office. I'm still that kind of guy, and I know that's passé and all that shit. But you know what? If you want to look the part, if you want to be the part, you gotta look it. And people got to treat us not like Bush League. I'm sorry, but when I see this and we've got no t-shirts, we got no banners, no yard signs, no hats, we got nothing. I'm a bald motherfucker right here, okay? I need a hat. I'm going to burn this shit in the sun. Okay, and look, if you're not doing that, it's going to be a custom 5950 Orioles hat, okay? And, like, you're not going to get your marketing in on that. But I have to be, like, at least a little bit of an asshole here and say, look, you're not appealing to me. Like, you're not appealing to what I actually want and what I would shell out $40 for a custom hat for. Because I know what a custom hat costs if you just want an Orioles hat, and they could print 50,000 of them. But guess what? I can't do. I can't order a Maryland Green Party custom 5950. But guess who's that's going to appeal to? Look, I'm from East Baltimore, man. You're going to get a little bit of hood with me. But, like, that's going to appeal here. That's going to sell. You get some 7 1/4s. You get some 7s. You get I'm a 7 5/8. But you get a few hats, custom fitteds. You'll sell them like hotcakes out here in Baltimore. You'll sell them hotcakes in places where that shit sells. You got to meet your audience where they are. And look, if we're selling cufflinks and we're selling $20 keychains, we're not meeting our audience. We're not actually gonna get anything. And by the way, people want to donate to something they feel like they get bang for their buck for. If I put out a shirt with a Maryland Green Party logo that's LGBTQ or trans friendly, and we get the Lavender Green Caucus to get all the proceeds, people will buy them up like hotcakes. I know how people are because I do the same thing too. You see this shirt? This shirt was bought because I saw Rhett and Link on Good Mythical Morning hogging this shirt, and I'm like, as a campaign shirt. As a campaign shirt. I could do this. Guess what? I got red, white, and blue pants to match this. I got red, white, and blue shoes to match this. The whole thing is a thing. But guess what? I'm knocking doors of normies. I'm not knocking y'all doors. I'm knocking normies' doors. They eat that shit up. They eat that shit. You got to dumb it down. Yo, we like to act like we're the smartest people in the room. Let's act like we're the dumbest people in the room. For a minute. Let's act like we don't know any better. We just got here. But we're just simpletons. We're just working class people because that's what I grew up with. That's where I grew up. I grew up with salt of the earth people. I grew up with people who, really? That's how that works? When you explain something, really? Black people have it worse than white people in America? Goddamn. I heard that verbatim. One of my friends, God bless me, he's not with us anymore, but you find friends in the strangest places. You don't have to be a smart person to buy in and to believe that what you're doing is the right thing and to listen to good people when good people know what they're saying. My friend Mike, and as I said, I was sitting here having a little moment before we had our conversation. My friend Mike was our drummer in my band, and I've played music for about 10 years. And Mike died about 6 months after he found his ex dead off pills. And I sit here every now and then. Mike was one of my best friends. He not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Mike failed the 10th grade 3 times and eventually dropped out. Mike was a good guy, though. He was an honest guy. He'd help with anything you asked. If you asked him, if you said, "Hey, Mike, I got to move in a week," he'd be, "All right, G, let's go. Let me go lift some stuff for you. Let me go help you pack up." He's just good people. Good people recognize good people. But telling somebody like Mike to read theory is going to alienate them. You know what Mike needs to do? Mike needs to learn in as simple terms as possible about why everything is the way it is. And then Mike's going to turn into an activist based on that, just on feel, just on look and feel. Because somebody like Mike might not understand what Marx was saying, but might feel it in his bones. Do you get me? I know that might be putting it out there a little bit, but if you get it, you get it.
Well, I know that you don't necessarily need to have read a whole lot of theory to know what you're doing or to know something is right. I will agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm just, when I was giving you some stories, it's just stuff I've heard on the doors.
Oh, no, definitely.
And of course, somebody in my inner circle is going to be like trying to follow along a little more than your average person.
Sure.
But the message is the same. Sometimes we need to say, look, and I've knocked on evangelicals' doors. You know what I say? If I want to pitch them on Medicare for all, Jesus never asked for $100 copay or $500 deductible when he was healing the lepers, did he?
No, and it's true. He didn't.
How come nobody talks about this? Come on, we can make our arguments better than this. Well, I feel like there is and I don't believe that in my heart of hearts. But that's an argument for an evangelical, because that is what they believe. And that's verbatim.
And it's not good, but that's a whole other discussion.
We're still dealing with a 2/3 Christian country.
Oh, I know.
Also leans conservative on social issues. So I have to realize when we have an economic argument, we have to make that case. And that's just, I've just kind of tried to, and when you said, what can I do differently than has been done before?
Sure.
We think outside the box here. At least I do. And I'd like to think that over the course of a decade, over folders and I am writing a book right now on literally how to campaign in hostile areas. This is not just something I stumbled upon. This is something I've actually taken and said, hey, what if we try to do 50 doors with X, 50 doors with Y, and we compare? And I've done 2 different pitches, and I've done an A/B, just loosely, just because I'm interested in this. Because also, too, I'm walking 10 miles a day when I'm canvassing, and I'd like to knock on some doors and be able to entertain my brain a little bit. So, but in all seriousness, when we ask what we can do differently, it has to be, we have to think outside the box. We have to think about different ways we can make our arguments. We have to think about different ways we can meet people where they are. Because if we're not meeting people where they are, we are just talking to ourselves. And I don't do that. That doesn't work. That doesn't win elections. I believe winning is the heal-all, end-all, cure-all about all this petty infighting that the left has. If we win more races, especially outside the Democrats, and we are fighting like hell to organize and we manage to build a movement, I don't think there's anything anybody can say to us that could detract from that message. If we're actually winning and we're actually doing it. But if we keep taking the piss out of each other, that's not going to happen. But also, too, and I just want to say, and I've said this adamantly over and over on the internet, anybody who follows me knows this, you cannot have left unity if you do not absolutely listen to the people who say, I'm never voting for another fucking Democrat again in my life, and here's why. I'm just going to let you know, a state delegate vacated their spot for corruption in my state. And I applied for this spot. The daughter of a sitting state delegate kicked out the media, put it on the door, blamed the building. The building had to go on Twitter and correct her and said, "We never kicked anybody out of the facility. You did." And kicked everybody out of the facility, cast the tie-breaking vote for herself, the daughter of a sitting state delegate, to fill the spot vacated by corruption. Welcome to Maryland Democrats, y'all. And with that, let me give you a minute. I got to still continue to check on things. I'm sorry.
This is a good spot for us to get close to wrapping up anyway, since we're coming in on an hour and a half. So you can go, and I'll ask Kennedy if you have any final thoughts.
I think it's good that there are people trying to do something with the Green Party. I think, I talk a lot about the importance of trying to use an existing vehicle before insisting on building something new, because building something new is monumental. And so, I tell people all the time, if you've got something in your state that's going to work for you, try to use it.
Yes.
Try to use those systems that are available, and if you can make them better than you found them, that's the best. That's the best possibility. So
I will say I don't think they're on the ballot yet, but I was followed the other day by a social media account for the Oregon People's Party. So,
hey, you down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. Hey, by the way, look, I don't care what name you call it. Call it socialist alternative. Call it Jesus fucking Satan in the doo-doo hole with a lawn dart party. I don't really care. Call it the Monster Raving Loony Party. Call it whatever you want. As long as we're fighting for the issues, we're fighting for Medicare for all, Green New Deal, and the fucking wars, foreign and domestic. If we are going to the mat for working people, I don't give a fuck what you call it, okay? I don't care if it's going to be in the Green Party or whatever. We have a ticket. It's mdgreenballot.com, y'all. Find us. I don't know if we're going to be Maryland Greens. We are accepting our roles because that is what the electorate wanted. The electorate overwhelmingly voted for us. I'm going to send you all the linkage, everything you need to prove this case. We have all the tabulations and we have the blatant power play. So right now, I'm just going to finish up my part of this by saying, number one, I've loved this. I'm sorry that this had so much bullshit behind it. We should really do a round 2 of this when we're all kind of having not a heat wave and not crazy shit going on. I would love that because y'all are wonderful. And thank you for being so accommodating. This has been absolutely a nightmare. And as I said, if the DMV, this is the highlight of my day, but the DMV is now second. That's still not good. But seriously, there's enough shit here. If you want, at some point, we can do a round 2. I would love to, especially after we get out of all the legalese out of this. By the way, just for the audience, I hereby accept the duly elected position of membership coordinator of Maryland Green Party. Fuck what you heard. I'm here. Y'all voted for me. Let's go, baby. Woo! There you go.
Perfect.
That's all the speech I got for you. I'm not even reading the paper. I don't care about what the paper said. Let's go. Let's have some fun. But guess what? 50-plus state strategy. I am all in. I own unifytheleft.com. Let's make it something. Y'all are welcome to join me. I'm putting it down. Throw down with the throwdown. Come on, let's make it something. 50-plus state strategy. We need one left alternative to the Democrats. That's the one thing. If we take one thing from here, that is the thing that I was working on before the Green Party. This I just kind of lucked into. Let's do this. I don't care what you call it. Let's get a left alternative to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the corrupt-ass Democrats. A leftist alternative for every state. I guarantee goddamn double dog tea we can do better than this. We can do better than 0.4% for all the left alternatives. If we work hard and we campaign together. Are you in? I hope you're in. I know you guys have the bona fides down. I am so stoked that you had me on, Kennedy, Chris. thank you so much. I appreciate you putting up with all the bullshit here. I might need to check to see if somebody needs to go to the hospital tonight. So thank you so much. I apologize. I have to cut it here. Y'all take care, okay? And I will send you that for the audience. By the way, mdgreenballot.com, unifytheleft.com, and if I can, one more thing. I have one more, which is a personal pet project of mine, which I am announcing here first and foremost. Justin Ruins the Party. That is my new podcast. You can find it, and I have the website for it, and I'm working on it right now at justinruinsthepod.com. I'd love to have y'all on and return the favor if you want.
Well, let us know
right?
if things get developed.
Yeah,
we're looking for
Thank you so much. I love you, and I love your audience, and I'm so glad to be subscribed. I can't wait. I've got a lot of bad content to take in, and let's go. Let's do this together, shall we?
Take care.
All right, y'all.
Have
Take care. Have a good night. It is 11:30. I hope to. All right. Take care, y'all. Peace.
My final thoughts for the night are relatively simple. I agree with a lot of what Justin was saying. I certainly agree in not letting TERFs take over the Maryland Green Party.
That really was
bad.
Let's have that. Let's have more of that, please.
And so I'm feeling better about the Maryland Green Party than the Georgia Green Party. Let's put it that way. And on that note, I want to thank everyone who joined us, especially Quaker Socialist, who has been very active in the chat and who has given us lots to work with. Thank you. And everybody have a great night from both myself and Kennedy. We'll tweet at you.
Yeah. Bye, y'all.